I was looking through my notes and realized that there were some slides that I forgot to add to our other lecture. So, just a quick recap, right? Talking about the skull. Cranium has 8 bones, facial 14. Here's another thing you could use to sort of label it yourself. Answer should be on this one. But you can also use your textbook, workbook, anything else that might help you fill that in. And of course today in lab, right, we played with the model. Colors were different, as Brad pointed out. So don't get too attached to color. Definitely get used to using the names. So the frontal bone, right, articulates with parietal, sphenoid, ethmoid, etc. So get used to that. So that's the very next question here. Which 4 bones articulate with the frontal bone? Again, the right and left parietal, right, the sphenoid, and then the ethmoid. So those are at least the ones that are specific to the skull. Again, as you maybe noticed with the model that you were playing with, there's facial bones that articulate with the frontal bone as well. But if we're going to keep to the cranium, those are the 4 bones that we're talking about. So the parietal bone, again, articulates with 5. So which 5? Make sure that you can name them. And then the occipital bone articulates with 6 bones. Make sure that you can name those as well. The temporal bone, right? Same thing. It's got a lot of bits and pieces that kind of poke out of it, as you may have noticed, right? So the zygomatic arch, or the zygomatic portion, right, of the temporal bone, and the mastoid portion with the mastoid process, the external acoustic meatus, the styloid process, the TMJ area, etc. This is sort of the inside view, as I talked about the petrous ridges. Didn't need to do that. But each, right, temporal bone has a petrous ridge together, right? They make up like a very distinct area on the inside of the skull. And again, which 3 bones does it articulate with? You should have the parietal, right, the sphenoid, and the occipital. And there's an internal acoustic meatus. There's the petrous pyramid, which is kind of that anterior portion to the petrous ridge, and a couple other things like that. So just make sure that you are studying that section as well. So here's the sphenoid from the frontal and the side view. So again, you don't see too much of it, but when you actually take it out, right, it's a pretty complicated bone. So it's got a lot of fun features. My favorite portion being the sella turcica, a very distinct, right, area of that bone, and something that you will definitely notice when you look at cranium x-rays. This part, right, also has distinct names to it. So the dorsum sellae, the clivus, the posterior clinoid processes, and the anterior clinoid processes. Again, this is just terminology that's hopefully a reminder or refresher. And then the last cranial bone that we have is the ethmoid, right? So it's kind of a funky looking one, right? It does have part of your superior nasal conch, which is technically more of a facial feature, but it also has your crista galli, the cribriform plate, right? Perpendicular plate. There's just a few different aspects of the ethmoid bone there. And then how many, right, cranial bones does it articulate with? Should just be, right, your frontal and your sphenoid. And then, of course, just another quick refresher about your body planes and landmarks. That's from the front, from the side, and then specific to the orbit. And then again, a refresher of those lines. So I'm going to post these slides so you can use them to study with as well. And hopefully you'll be ready to take a quiz next week.